In 2002, only 62 Iberian lynxes remained in the world. Biologists declared them functionally extinct, the rarest cat species on Earth, an animal with no chance of survival. And yet today, more than 2,000 Iberian lynxes roam the Iberian Peninsula. This shouldn't have been possible. Extinction processes don't run in reverse. Critically endangered predators never recover. Dr. Miguel Delibes from the Doñana Biological Station described this as a biological resurrection that overturns our understanding of species collapse. Most critically endangered cats have vanished. The Caspian tiger is gone. The Barbary lion is gone. But the Iberian lynx? In just 20 years, it has risen from 62 individuals to over 2,000. The golden coat you see on your screen belongs to a species that should statistically be extinct. Scientists are still struggling to explain how a species with such catastrophic genetic diversity managed to survive. Tonight, we'll explore how the Iberian lynx rewrote the rules of extinction and came back from the brink of death. If the Iberian lynx's impossible comeback fascinates you as much as it fascinates me, like and subscribe. Write in the comments where you're watching from, what time it is there, and what surprised you most about the Iberian lynx. You're the reason we keep discovering nature's secrets. Thanks for being here. First, let's note that researchers don't entirely agree on the findings we're about to discuss. Some information isn't certain. Now let's slowly dive into how this predator on the edge of extinction quietly struggled to return. The year was 2002. Biologists were walking through scrublands in southern Spain. Their task was to count every Iberian lynx they could find. When the final count was announced, everyone froze. 62 adult individuals, not 62,000, not even 600. 62 lynx scattered across 2 small patches of habitat. Think about that for a moment. You could fit the entire population of the world's most endangered feline species into a high school gymnasium. But there was something that made this number even more frightening than it appeared. These weren't 62 healthy animals ready to rebuild their species. They were divided into 2 isolated populations, squeezed into tiny areas, no communication between them, no gene flow. 2 populations waiting desperately, one in Doñana National Park, the other in the Sierra Morena Mountains. Biologists at the Doñana Biological Station examined genetic samples, and the results showed collapse within a decade. Dr. Miguel Delibes, who had studied the lynx for years, called it functional extinction, a species still breathing but biologically dead. But in the years after 2002, something unexpected happened. Institutions decided to launch a large-scale rescue program to bring the lynx back. So the question is, how do you turn a species back from the brink of extinction? How do you increase its population? The answer isn't simple. When conservation experts assessed the lynx crisis in the early 2000s, they faced many interconnected problems. Habitat fragmentation had divided the lynx's historical range into isolated patches. Roads cut through territories, killing lynx trying to move between populations. European rabbit populations, which made up 75% of the lynx's diet, had collapsed due to disease. Despite legal protections, illegal hunting continued. Teams began working during a period when the International Union for Conservation of Nature classified the Iberian lynx as critically endangered. Establishing breeding programs, relocating lynx to restored habitats were part of these efforts. But teams noticed another problem. During these years, rabbit populations had disappeared in 85% of the areas where lynx lived. Rabbits made up the vast majority of the lynx's diet. Imagine for a moment that the food that makes up 75% of your diet disappeared. That was the situation the lynx faced. Teams didn't just monitor the situation any longer. The first breeding center opened in 2003 at El Acebuche in Doñana. They were trying to convince the wild population, numbering less than 100, to breed in captivity. The lynx were stressed, unaccustomed to artificial environments. Early attempts failed. A few months passed with very little success. Then in 2005, a breakthrough happened. A 2-year-old female named Saliega gave birth to 3 healthy cubs. This was the first successful captive birth, but more importantly, it proved the method worked. The cubs survived, and Saliega's breeding success became a model for managing other breeding pairs. Within 4 years, multiple breeding centers in Spain and Portugal began producing cubs regularly. Researchers watched the cubs carefully. They had very few lynx on hand, and the slightest mistake they could make might affect the fate of a species. But captive breeding alone couldn't save the species. They needed a place to put the lynx. This required solving the habitat crisis that had caused the decline. Between 2002 and 2013, more than $20 million was invested in the rescue project called LIFE. This money was spent on habitat restoration, rabbit population management, and fighting illegal hunting. Before conservation experts restored habitats, lynx lived in only 190 square miles. An Iberian lynx needs at least 7 square miles to live. Think about that for a moment. The 62 lynx already on the verge of extinction couldn't even find enough room to breathe. Within the project, work began to solve this problem too. Conservation teams didn't just protect existing forest. They actively restored degraded scrublands, replanted native Mediterranean vegetation, and created habitat corridors connecting isolated populations. This approach recognized that lynx needed more than protected areas. Connections had to be established between populations. The return of rabbits was equally critical. Teams managed rabbit populations with disease monitoring, predator control. In some areas, artificial rabbit burrows encouraged rabbit breeding. The goal wasn't just more rabbits, but stable populations that could feed lynx throughout seasonal fluctuations. Some areas reached the critical threshold of 2 rabbits per acre. This was the density needed for successful lynx breeding. By 2009, breeding centers were producing enough healthy lynx for the next phase. Reintroduction into the wild. The first releases happened north of Doñana. Conservation experts didn't just open the cages and hope for the best. Each lynx was fitted with a GPS collar for tracking. Veterinary teams did health monitoring. Observers constantly watched the lynx and intervened when necessary. The results exceeded expectations. First-year survival rates reached almost 70%. Captive-bred lynx were finding territories, hunting successfully. Even more encouraging, they were breeding. By 2011, wild cubs born to reintroduced parents began to be seen in Doñana. The program expanded. Between 2010 and 2015, releases spread to Guarizas in Spain and the Guadiana Valley in Portugal. These were areas where lynx had once completely disappeared. And in 2015, the International Union for Conservation of Nature downgraded the Iberian lynx from critically endangered to endangered. Each new population increased the total number and established genetic connections between isolated groups. Genetic management was vital. With such low initial diversity, every breeding decision mattered greatly. Scientists had to select pairs that would create the most genetic difference. This way, each breeding center contributed greatly to the program by keeping lynx bloodlines alive. Local communities became unexpected allies. Early conservation efforts began with landowners' discontent who saw the lynx as a threat to game animals and farm animals. But education programs changed perceptions. The lynx became a symbol that brought economic contribution to the region by reviving ecotourism in rural areas. Farmers who once shot lynx on sight now protected them. By 2013, the total wild and captive population reached 309 individuals. The species was still endangered, but for the first time in 50 years it was on an upward trend. More importantly, the population was distributed across multiple regions. This reduced the risk of a single disease outbreak or forest fire wiping out the species. The strategy was working, the result was even better than expected. The next decade witnessed accelerated growth. Reintroductions continued into new areas. Between 30 and 40 lynx were released into the wild each year. Most released lynx had been born in breeding centers. That's why in the early years they got along well with each other, didn't fight over territory. Breeding centers also improved their techniques, producing larger litters with higher survival rates. Habitat corridors caused natural dispersal between populations. By 2019, the population exceeded 650 individuals. Today, more than 2,000 Iberian lynx roam and hunt across the Iberian Peninsula. They've reclaimed regions in Spain and Portugal where they disappeared decades ago. Now you can see them forming breeding populations, giving birth to healthy cubs every spring. The rescue happened so fast that the scientists who documented the crisis in 2002 are now tracking expansion into new areas they never thought would be possible. Think about what this means. In 21 years, the Iberian lynx went from functionally extinct to one of Europe's fastest growing predator populations. The recovery happened so quickly that today, young biologists are studying a species their professors witnessed nearly vanishing. But what this miraculous comeback really reveals about conservation is this: success required everything to work at the same time. Without captive breeding programs, habitat restoration would have failed. Without habitat restoration, rabbit population recovery would have failed. Without rabbit recovery, reducing road-related deaths would have failed. The Iberian lynx returned because we spent massive resources, ran the program very well, and most importantly, we did all of these simultaneously. Now the question is this success sustainable? The lynx population is still rebuilding. Genetic diversity still remains below normal levels. Rabbit populations fluctuate unpredictably. The species needs to gain 1,500 more individuals before it can be considered secured for the next century. And there's something else. Where will we place 2,000 lynx? Mediterranean forests, the home of lynx for thousands of years. But now these habitats are threatened by forest fires, urbanization, and climate change. The lynx have returned, but if their homes disappear, so will they. And these forests are more complex than you think. Now it's time to dive into the heart of Mediterranean forests. Chapter 2. Imagine yourself walking in southern Spain in the late hours of the day. You're standing at the edge of a forest, but this forest doesn't exactly look like a forest. There are dense Mediterranean scrublands rising in some places to the waist, in others to the shoulder. Between these dark green shrubs, patchy open spaces also appear. Cork oak trees scattered throughout the terrain. This isn't coincidence. This mosaic pattern, this arrangement of dense and open areas of shade and light, determines whether an Iberian lynx can survive here. We call this Mediterranean scrubland, but this simple term hides extraordinary complexity. The Iberian lynx belongs to Mediterranean Scrublands and distribution is vital for its survival. The Doñana region is also a very suitable area for this distribution. The lynx needs two elements to work together. If there's too much dense scrubland, rabbits hide easily. If there's too much openness, the lynx loses the cover to ambush. The balance must be perfect. Think of your own neighborhood. Imagine half the buildings disappeared, or all open spaces filled with buildings. Habitat structure matters. For the lynx, structure is everything. Accordingly, Iberian lynx choose areas with open spaces interspersed with mature Mediterranean scrubland. Females claim areas of 2 to 4 square miles. Males claim 5 to 8 square miles, and overlap with several female territories. Lynx always choose Mediterranean scrublands as breeding areas. This requirement sounds simple when first heard, but lynx can't live in any ordinary Mediterranean forest. Scrublands aren't the only condition. We need natural transition areas in breeding territories to connect with other populations. The habitats lynx need create the most suitable rabbit populations, but you can't survive on just eating rabbits. You need water sources. All of these must be close to each other. If you remove one, the system breaks down. Adequate breeding can't be sustained. In this delicate balance, lynx also compete with another predator, the red fox. Despite both species sharing common prey, foxes use a more intriguing hunting method. They detect prey under snow using Earth's magnetic field, then leap into the air and dive into the snow. In our next video, we'll explore this strange method of the fox. Now let's get back to the lynx. In recent years, as humans increasingly expand land use, lynx are also trying to find the perfect habitat we're talking about. Between 1960 and 2000, Iberian lynx lost 80% of their historical habitat, not because forests disappeared, but because their structures changed. We replaced the natural Mediterranean mosaic with artificial plantations. This was one of the main reasons lynx came to the brink of extinction. Artificial pine plantations look green in satellite images. They're recorded as forest cover in environmental assessments. But when you walk through a commercial pine grove, you immediately understand why lynx avoid these areas. Pine shade blocks natural sunlight so much that understory vegetation dies. No scrub means no rabbits. Pine trees grow very fast, but Mediterranean forest grows very slowly. That's why people planted artificial pine trees to keep the forest alive. But plantations become biological deserts for species like the lynx. Artificial eucalyptus trees create similar problems. Fast-growing eucalyptus trees are frequently cut for paper production. They provide economic benefit to landowners, but the ecological cost is catastrophic. Once, the Sierra Morena Mountains held the lynx's largest populations, but now they face a region fragmented into isolated habitats separated by miles of unsuitable terrain. Roads worsen fragmentation even more. Imagine a female lynx with a 4 square mile territory split in half by a highway. She can hear rabbits on the other side, but crossing means getting through 4 lanes of traffic moving at 60 miles per hour. Between 2002 and 2014, traffic collisions made up most documented lynx deaths in reintroduced populations. Young males dispersing to find new territories were especially vulnerable because they hadn't been raised in the wild, hadn't experienced the harshness of the wild. They would walk tens of miles searching for empty habitat, forced to cross many roads. Each crossing was a deadly gamble. When roads block access, lynx have been documented unable to reach better territories and trying to establish territories in unsuitable habitats. A male claims 6 square miles of unsuitable scrubland with low rabbit density rather than risk crossing the highway for first-class habitat on the other side. From the lynx's perspective, choosing between certain death from traffic and possible survival in poor habitat makes sense. Iberian lynx are generally solitary animals. You already know that each lynx establishes and lives in its own habitat. They mark boundaries to warn lynx seeking territory. They scratch tree bark to mark boundaries. They mark territory with urine and feces. The message is clear: this area is occupied. Male lynx patrol, boundaries with constant marking, occasionally entering physical conflict with intruding males. But deaths during these conflicts are rare because most of the time they settle for threats. Camera footage from Sierra Morena captured such a territorial dispute. Two adult males met in a border zone. The conflict lasted 7 minutes. Both animals remained motionless except for ear movements and tail flicking. Eventually, the younger one backed down. He spent the next 3 days wandering in poor territory and eventually left the area entirely. Female territorial conflicts follow different patterns. Females typically inherit their mother's territory after a 20-month dependency period. But if a young female can't inherit and must find new territory, she encounters established females who have already claimed the best habitat. This causes dangerous population reduction. Even if population numbers increase, territorial structure limits the number of breeding females. There can be dozens of young lynx seeking territory because suitable habitat is already full. This brings us back to habitat quality. Not every 4 square miles is the same. Research teams measured habitat characteristics in lynx territories in Doñana and Sierra Morena. In optimal areas with abundant scrubland, female territories were 2 square miles. In areas with poor structure, they expanded to 4 to 5 square miles. So lynx compensate for lower habitat quality with larger areas. But compensation has limits. When habitat connectivity drops below a certain threshold, breeding can't be supported regardless of territory size. Females in suboptimal habitats can hold territories but can't breed. Observations also show that lynx unable to find habitat use areas of lower quality than those used by established individuals. But lynx with established territories could do this not because they were lucky, but because they didn't use areas randomly. All this shows that for lynx to survive, not just suitable cover and area selection are critical, but also essential resources. Water access is more important than early research suggested. Mediterranean summers bring temperatures exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Lynx don't have effective heat dissipation mechanisms. During the hottest hours, they need water sources and shaded resting spots. At the same time, they need places that can be used as dens. This is very important for Iberian lynx breeding. Agricultural transformation directly impacted lynx habitats. Farmers ploughed Mediterranean scrubland to plant wheat, olives, and vineyards. The transformation happened rapidly in the 1960s and 70s during Spain's agricultural modernization. Within 20 years, regions that continuously harbored lynx turned into fragmented small islands scattered among agricultural areas. Lynx trying to move between these fragments faced open fields offering zero vegetation and zero prey. But here's where the story gets more complex. Habitat restoration. Since 2002 has focused on reversing this situation. Conservation teams identified potential lynx habitat based on historical records and current vegetation mapping. They purchased land, negotiated conservation agreements with private owners, and actively restored degraded scrubland. Teams cleared invasive species, planted native shrubs, and created artificial area connections. Results showed lynx habitats can be rebuilt, but the process is slow. Natural Mediterranean scrubland takes 15 to 20 years to develop the structural complexity lynx need. Still, recent findings show that despite low habitat quality, if wild rabbit density is sufficient, lynx can breed in these areas. Habitat corridors represent our attempt to reconnect fragmented populations. Protected habitat strips connecting Sierra Morena to Doñana create movement corridors. Camera footage documents lynx using these corridors, but usage rates are lower compared to movement rates in natural habitats. Corridors work, but not like a highway, more like a narrow gateway. And this brings us to a question we can't fully answer yet. Even in perfect habitat with abundant rabbits, optimal forest structure, and no human interference, how does an Iberian lynx actually catch its prey? We know habitat is necessary. We know they defend territories. We know 90% of their diet consists of rabbits. But rabbits are extremely alert. They have hearing sharp enough to detect even the slightest movement of a predator from miles away. And the moment they detect a predator, they freeze, becoming virtually invisible. We discussed this survival method in our previous journey. Mediterranean scrubland provides cover, but rabbits don't sit in the open waiting to be caught. They stay near burrow entrances ready to flee underground at the first sign of danger. So how can a lynx, not much bigger than a fox, consistently catch a rabbit that has evolved over millions of years not to be caught? What happens in those final seconds before a lynx strikes? Chapter 3. A rabbit feeds at the edge of a clearing in Sierra Morena, 100 feet from dense scrubland. The animal's ears rotate constantly, scanning for threats. Its eyes, positioned on the sides of its head, provide nearly 360 degrees of vision. This creature is designed specifically to avoid predators. Every physical adaptation, every behavioral pattern serves the singular purpose of not getting eaten. Yet somewhere in that scrubland, invisible, a lynx is watching it. We know from camera trap footage that Iberian lynx succeed in roughly 40% of their hunting attempts. Think about what that percentage means. Nearly half the time, you succeed. How? The answer isn't in what we can see during the final pounce. The answer is in everything that happens before the rabbit even knows a predator is present. Lynx hunting begins with stillness, not the frozen stillness of a statue, but something more fluid. The cat positions itself in dense cover mastic thicket, strawberry tree, mature heather, and simply waits. Minutes pass, sometimes hours. We've documented individual lynx remaining motionless for up to 3 hours in prime hunting locations, watching rabbit activity patterns, learning the terrain. This patience separates successful hunters from unsuccessful ones. Young lynx recently dispersed from their mothers often rush their approach. They see a rabbit and immediately begin stalking, covering ground too quickly, creating micro-disturbances in vegetation that alert prey. Experienced adults understand that waiting isn't wasted time. They're gathering intelligence. Which rabbits feed farthest from burrow entrances? Which routes do they take? Where do shadows fall as the sun moves? Now imagine you're trying to do something similar in your own life. You're trying to approach a goal that requires perfect timing, perfect conditions, perfect execution. You can't rush. You have to watch, learn patterns, wait for the exact moment. That's what we're observing in these cats. Strategic patience that looks like inactivity but is actually intense focus. The stalk phase begins when the lynx identifies a target and starts closing distance. This movement is where we see the physical adaptations working in concert. The lynx's paws are disproportionately large for its body size, roughly 4 inches wide. Those oversized paws function like snowshoes, distributing weight across larger surface area. But in Mediterranean scrubland, they serve a different purpose. They reduce ground pressure, allowing the cat to move across dry leaves and brittle twigs without creating noise. Each step places the paw deliberately, testing ground surface before committing full weight. The lynx moves in slow motion, advancing perhaps 3 feet every 30 seconds. Its body stays low, belly nearly touching ground, using every available cover. A slight depression in terrain, a cluster of rocks, even shadows cast by vegetation create concealment opportunities that the lynx exploits. The spotted coat provides camouflage, but not in the way you might expect. Those dark spots don't help the lynx blend into any specific background. Instead, they break up the cat's outline. Your brain naturally recognizes shapes, circles, rectangles, the silhouette of an animal. Disruptive coloration prevents that recognition. You're looking at the lynx, but your visual processing can't assemble the spots into a coherent cat shape until it moves. Researchers studying lynx stalking behavior measured approach distances using GPS collars and motion-activated cameras. Successful hunts involved stalking to within 6 to 13 feet before the pounce. Failed hunts showed lynx attempting final approaches from 25 to 35 feet. That difference seems minimal, a few extra feet, but from the rabbit's sensory perspective, those feet represent the boundary between detection and surprise. Here's where the lynx's physical build becomes critical. The hind legs are disproportionately long and heavily muscled. Anatomical studies show that lynx have unique muscle attachment patterns in their hind limbs compared to other felids. The vastus medialis muscle part of the quadriceps complex is significantly heavier than in similar-sized cats. This muscular development exists specifically to generate explosive power during the pounce. But explosive power requires more than strong muscles. It requires precise calculation. The lynx must judge distance to target, account for rabbit reaction time, predict escape direction, and launch its body with enough force to cover the gap before prey reaches safety. These calculations happen in milliseconds. Get the angle wrong by 5 degrees and the rabbit escapes. Launch a half-second too early and the rabbit detects movement and bolts. Too late and the rabbit is already underground. The tufted ears that make lynx so visually distinctive serve a functional purpose beyond appearance. Those black tufts up to 2 inches long enhance directional hearing. Sound waves hit the tufts and channel toward the ear opening, improving the cat's ability to pinpoint sound sources. Field observations show lynx rotating their ears independently, triangulating on sounds humans cannot detect. They're hearing the rabbit's breathing, the rustle of fur against vegetation, the subtle grinding of teeth on grass stems. When the lynx commits to the pounce, the movement is startlingly fast. High-speed camera footage shows the entire sequence takes approximately 0.8 of a second from launch to contact. The hind legs extend fully, propelling the cat forward in a shallow arc. Front legs reach forward, claws extended. The lynx doesn't leap high. Maximum apex height is perhaps 2 feet. It's a flat, fast trajectory designed to cover horizontal distance rapidly. Impact happens with the front paws. Retractable claws, kept sharp because they're sheathed when walking, deploy and dig into the rabbit's body. The momentum of a 35-pound cat moving at 20 miles per hour translates to significant force. Many rabbits die from the impact trauma alone. Those that survive the initial strike face the killing bite. The killing technique targets the throat and neck, Canine teeth, separated by 1 to 1.5 inches, penetrate on either side of the trachea. Sometimes the bite severs the spinal cord. More often, it crushes the trachea, causing suffocation. The entire sequence from pounce to death takes 15 to 30 seconds for a rabbit-sized prey. Larger prey require longer, but rabbits constitute 90% of lynx diet specifically because they can be dispatched quickly with minimal injury risk to the hunter. Think about the physical demands this hunting strategy places on the lynx. Every failed hunt costs energy. The stalk phase burns calories through sustained muscle tension. The pounce depletes glycogen stores through anaerobic effort. If success rates dropped below 30%, the energetic equation wouldn't balance. The lynx would expend more calories hunting than it gains from eating prey. That's why we see lynx abandoning hunts when conditions aren't optimal. A rabbit feeding too close to burrow entrance, not worth attempting. Wind blowing from lynx toward prey, carrying scent, abort the stalk. Dry conditions creating noisy ground cover, wait for rain to dampen vegetation. The cats are constantly making cost-benefit calculations, deciding which opportunities offer sufficient success probability to justify energy expenditure. But here's something camera traps revealed that surprised researchers. Lynx don't always eat immediately after kills. Sometimes they cache prey, drag it into dense cover, scrape vegetation over it, and leave. They return hours later to feed. Why delay consumption? Why risk another predator stealing the kill? The answer involves something we haven't fully considered yet. Lynx territories contain multiple rabbits. If a lynx kills and eats immediately, leaving blood and entrails at the kill site, every rabbit in the area detects the predator's presence. They alter their behavior, staying closer to burrows, reducing feeding time. The territory becomes temporarily harder to hunt. By caching kills and moving away, the lynx keeps prey populations unaware. Rabbits continue their normal patterns. Within the same evening, an experienced lynx might make 2 or 3 kills, caching each one, then returning to feed sequentially through the night. This strategic approach maximizes hunting efficiency across the entire territory rather than optimizing single kills. Adult males require 1 rabbit daily. Lactating females with kittens need 3. That means successful females must hunt constantly during the reproduction season. Camera trap data from GPS-collared females shows they spend 6 to 8 hours nightly hunting when raising kittens, multiple stalks, multiple kills. The physical demands are extraordinary. Females emerge from kitten rearing seasons having lost 15 to 20% of their body weight, despite consuming triple the normal prey intake. Young lynx learning to hunt face steep learning curves. Mother lynx initially bring dead or injured rabbits to kittens around 4 months old, letting them practice the killing bite on incapacitated prey. By 6 months, kittens accompany mothers on hunts, watching from cover while she stalks. By 8 months, they attempt their own hunts under maternal supervision. Success rates for young hunters hover around 10%. It takes months of practice before they approach adult efficiency levels. What happens when rabbit populations crash? When disease outbreaks reduce prey density below the critical threshold? Lynx don't easily switch to alternative prey. Their entire hunting strategy is optimized for rabbit-sized animals in Mediterranean scrubland. They occasionally catch red-legged partridge, rodents, even young deer. But these alternatives require different techniques, different terrain, different caloric calculations. The dependence on one prey species on one habitat type on one specific hunting method makes Iberian lynx extraordinarily vulnerable to ecosystem changes. We've documented territories abandoned not because rabbits completely disappeared, but because rabbit density dropped below levels where hunting success rates made energetic sense. The lynx were still catching prey. They just weren't catching enough to justify the energy expenditure. But there's something else affecting hunting success that we're only beginning to understand. Something about how lynx perceive their environment at night when most hunting occurs. The anatomical adaptations we can measure, eye structure, ear tufts, muscle attachments, explain part of their hunting prowess. But how do lynx navigate and hunt effectively in conditions where even moonlight is blocked by dense vegetation? What sensory capabilities are we missing in our analysis of their nocturnal hunting behavior? Chapter 4. The first thing we notice is the ears. Those distinctive black tufts rising like antennae from each ear tip, reaching up to 1.5 inches in length. They give the lynx an alert, almost startled expression, as if permanently surprised by something just beyond our view. Scientists still debate their exact function. Some suggest they enhance hearing by funneling sound waves. Others propose they serve as visual communication signals between lynx. The truth is, we're not entirely certain, which makes them all the more intriguing. The face frames those tufted ears with what researchers call a facial ruff, a beard of longer fur that extends from the cheeks down around the chin. It creates the impression of a wise elder, thoughtful and deliberate. When you see a lynx in profile, that ruff catches the light differently than the shorter facial fur, accentuating the cat's features. Young kittens have less pronounced ruffs, developing them gradually as they mature. By the time a lynx reaches 2 or 3 years old, the ruff has become a defining characteristic. Amber eyes sit beneath those tufted ears, positioned forward for binocular vision. The pupil structure differs from domestic cats. Where house cats have vertical slits that narrow to thin lines in bright light, lynx pupils remain more rounded even when constricted. This adaptation relates to their crepuscular hunting schedule. They need good vision in both the dim light of dusk and the brighter conditions of dawn. The rounded pupil provides that flexibility. The coat itself tells stories. A base color somewhere between yellowish-brown and reddish-tan covers most of the body, lighter on the belly and chest. Darker spots scatter across this background in patterns unique to each individual. Some lynx carry small, discrete spots. Others have larger blotches that almost merge into stripes along the back and sides. Researchers use these spot patterns like fingerprints for identification. Camera trap photos can identify specific individuals because no two lynx share identical spot arrangements. Those spots serve a purpose beyond identification. When a lynx crouches in Mediterranean scrubland, the spotted pattern breaks up its outline. Your eyes see spots and shadows, vegetation and rocks, but struggle to assemble those visual fragments into a coherent cat shape. It's called disruptive coloration, and it works best in the dappled light filtering through scrubland canopy. At dawn or dusk, when lynx hunt most actively, this camouflage becomes particularly effective. The body itself sits relatively short and compact. From nose to tail base, males measure roughly 2.5 to 2.7 feet, with females slightly shorter at a little over 2 to 2.5 feet. But that compact body sits on surprisingly long legs. The contrast creates an unusual silhouette, almost like someone attached regular cat legs to a much taller cat and called it a lynx. Those long legs serve specific purposes. They lift the body higher above ground vegetation, improving sight lines across scrubland. They provide longer stride length for covering territory efficiently, and they position the body for the explosive pouncing attacks we discussed earlier. The tail deserves mention because of what it lacks. Where most cats have tails measuring half their body length or more, the Iberian lynx tail barely reaches 5 to 12 inches. It ends in a distinctive black tip, one of the few features that remains constant across all individuals regardless of spot pattern variation. That short tail combined with the leg length makes the lynx instantly recognizable even in silhouette. The paws tell their own story. Roughly 3.5 inches wide, they spread weight across larger surface area than you'd expect for a cat this size. Thick fur covers the paw pads, providing both insulation and additional surface area. Think of them as organic snowshoes. While Iberian lynx rarely encounter snow in their Mediterranean range, those oversized fur-covered paws still reduce ground pressure. They allow the lynx to move across dry leaves and brittle vegetation more quietly than smaller paws would permit. Retractable claws hide within those paws until needed. The ability to sheath claws keeps them sharp. Every time a domestic cat walks on concrete or rough surfaces, the exposed claws wear down slightly. Lynx claws stay protected inside sheaths, only extending during climbing, hunting, or territorial marking. When we examine recovered carcasses, the claws show minimal wear. Despite years of use, they remain needle-sharp throughout the lynx's life. Males average 26 to 31 pounds. Females range from 20 to 22 pounds. That's roughly twice the weight of a large domestic cat, but half the size of their Eurasian lynx cousins. The size difference between males and females isn't dramatic in absolute terms, perhaps 6 to 9 pounds separating average individuals. But in a species where every pound affects hunting success and territorial defense, those pounds matter. The skull structure reveals adaptations for their specialized diet. Compared to generalist predators that eat varied prey, lynx have relatively short, broad skulls. The shortened skull maximizes bite force. When those canine teeth penetrate a rabbit's neck, the jaw muscles generate significant crushing pressure. Skull measurements from museum specimens show the bite force ratio higher in Iberian lynx than in similarly sized felids with more varied diets. Those canine teeth deserve closer examination. They sit separated by roughly 1 to 1.5 inches at the tips. That spacing matches perfectly with the diameter of a rabbit's neck. When the lynx bites, those canines bracket the trachea and major blood vessels. The bite doesn't have to be particularly deep to be lethal. The teeth position themselves on either side of critical structures, applying pressure that either crushes the windpipe or severs blood flow to the brain. The sense of smell operates differently than in canids. Cats generally rely more on vision and hearing than scent for hunting, but lynx still use olfactory information for territorial marking and mate detection. They have specialized scent glands between their toes, the interdigital glands we mentioned earlier. Every step deposits chemical information onto the substrate. Other lynx passing through can detect these marks and interpret age, sex, reproductive status, and individual identity. Vocalizations add another communication layer. Lynx can purr like domestic cats, though the frequency is lower, creating a deeper rumbling sound. They meow, though again, in a lower register than house cats. During mating season, males produce loud growling calls that carry across territories. Females respond with higher-pitched meow-like sounds. These vocal exchanges help establish pair bonds during the brief courtship period. The winter coat grows substantially thicker than summer pelage. In colder months, fur length increases to nearly 4 inches in some areas, particularly around the neck and shoulders. This creates better insulation during the limited cold periods Mediterranean regions experience. By late spring, the lynx sheds this extra fur, returning to a shorter summer coat. The seasonal molt happens gradually over several weeks. You'll see lynx in spring looking somewhat ragged as patches of winter fur come loose while summer coat grows in underneath. Here's something interesting about those physical features. When you look at an Iberian lynx, you're seeing a body plan optimized for one specific lifestyle in one specific habitat. Everything from ear tufts to paw size reflects adaptations for hunting rabbits in Mediterranean scrubland. That specialization made them extraordinarily successful in their historical range. But it also makes them vulnerable when conditions change, and they can't easily shift to different prey or different habitats because their entire physical design centers on that single ecological niche. Compare this to more generalized predators. Red foxes inhabit nearly every terrestrial ecosystem on Earth because their bodies allow flexible hunting strategies. Lynx lack that flexibility. The trade-off for specialization is vulnerability. The benefit is extraordinary efficiency within their niche. When rabbit populations are healthy and scrubland habitat abundant, no predator in that ecosystem hunts more efficiently than an Iberian lynx. In October 2025, a photographer in Spain captured images of something unprecedented, a completely white Iberian lynx. The cat showed all the typical lynx features, the tufted ears, the facial ruff, the body proportions. But instead of the characteristic spotted tan coat, this individual appeared snow white. Genetic testing would later confirm leucism, a condition causing reduced pigmentation while maintaining normal eye color. The discovery generated significant attention, not just because of its rarity, but because of what it represents. That white lynx exists because the population has rebounded enough to allow rare genetic variations to appear. In a population of 62 individuals, genetic diversity barely exists. Unusual traits get lost in the tiny gene pool. But in a population exceeding 2,000, we see increasing variety, different spot patterns, size variations, and yes, occasionally a white individual. That white lynx hunting in Hyen's Mountains carries the same physical adaptations as its tawny cousins, the same oversized paws, the same powerful hind legs, the same killing bite, but it hunts without camouflage. Every rabbit sees it coming. Does it compensate somehow? Does it hunt more at night when coloration matters less? We don't know yet. The animal's survival depends partly on prey density in its territory and partly on developing alternative strategies to overcome its visibility disadvantage. These physical features work together as an integrated system. Remove one element and others become less effective. The camouflaged coat requires proper habitat to work. The powerful legs need proper prey density to justify their energetic cost. The specialized skull structure depends on abundant rabbits. Everything connects, and that interconnection raises a question about adaptation itself. How do these physical features change as lynx populations expand into new territories? Are lynx establishing themselves in slightly different habitats, developing any variations in body size or proportions? Are northern populations beginning to show adaptations for colder climates compared to southern populations in Andalusia? Chapter 5. The sun drops toward the horizon in Sierra Morena, painting the scrubland in shades of amber and gold. Somewhere in a dense thicket of heather, a lynx opens its eyes. It has been sleeping here since mid-morning, curled in the shade where temperatures stayed bearable. Now, as shadows lengthen and the day's heat fades, the cat stretches and begins grooming. This moment, this transition from rest to activity, happens with remarkable consistency across lynx territories. We see it evening after evening. The rhythm runs deep. Iberian lynx live by twilight. Their most active hours cluster around sunset, when we watch them emerge from daytime resting spots and begin patrolling territories. Then again at dawn, though usually less intensely than evening. That pattern, what biologists call crepuscular behavior, defines their daily rhythm. Between those twilight periods, lynx remain active through much of the night, hunting and moving through their ranges. Midday brings the lowest activity levels. They rest in thick cover, conserving energy during peak heat. The pattern makes sense when you consider rabbits. European rabbits follow similar schedules, emerging from burrows primarily during twilight hours to feed on grasses and vegetation. Lynx activity synchronizes with prey availability. When rabbits are most active and exposed, lynx are hunting. When rabbits retreat underground during midday heat, lynx rest. The relationship between predator and prey creates a shared rhythm across the Mediterranean landscape. But here's where things get interesting. That summer pattern shifts as seasons change. In winter months, we observe something different. Lynx become more active during daylight hours. Camera traps show them moving through territories in mid-afternoon, times when summer lynx would be sleeping. The shift isn't random. Winter brings cooler temperatures and different rabbit behavior. Rabbits in winter often emerge during warmer daylight hours rather than cold twilight periods. The lynx adjust their schedules accordingly. Think about how we adjust our own routines seasonally. In summer, we avoid midday heat, preferring cooler morning and evening hours. In winter, we seek out sunny afternoons. Lynx do something similar, but their adjustments follow prey patterns rather than comfort. They're optimizing hunting success across changing conditions. A typical day in summer might look like this. The lynx sleeps through morning in dense vegetation, perhaps in the same heather thicket it has used for weeks. Around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, it wakes and begins grooming. Grooming takes time, methodical attention to coat condition. Then it moves to a vantage point, perhaps a rocky outcrop or the edge of a clearing, and watches, just watches, observing rabbit activity, noting which areas show movement. As sunset approaches, the lynx begins patrolling. It moves along familiar routes through its territory, checking scent marks, investigating areas where rabbits typically feed. The hunt itself might last hours or end quickly depending on prey encounters. Lynx rely heavily on their exceptional eyesight during these nocturnal hunts, but another predator sharing this landscape has evolved a completely different approach. The red fox hunts prey it cannot see at all, using Earth's magnetic field. We'll explore this extraordinary mousing behavior of red foxes in our next journey. For now, back to our cat. A successful kill early in the evening means time to cache the prey, move away from the kill site, and potentially hunt again. Multiple kills in one night aren't unusual when prey density is good. By midnight or 1 in the morning, activity often decreases. The lynx might rest for several hours before another activity peak around 4 or 5 a.m. just before dawn. That early morning period brings a second hunting opportunity as rabbits emerge for dawn feeding. Then, as full daylight arrives, the lynx finds a resting spot for the day. We know these patterns from GPS collars equipped with motion sensors. The technology records activity levels every few minutes, building detailed pictures of daily rhythms across weeks and months. What emerges is consistency. Individual lynx show remarkable regularity in their schedules. The same resting spots get used repeatedly. Patrol routes follow similar paths day after day. The cat is a creature of habit within its territory. Territory maintenance requires constant attention. A male with a 12 to 15 square mile territory spends significant time patrolling boundaries. He visits scent marking locations regularly, refreshing marks to signal occupancy to neighboring males. Scrape marks on trees get renewed. Prominent rocks receive fresh scent deposits. The territorial system depends on these regular patrols maintaining clear boundaries. Females with smaller territories face different time pressures. Their 8 to 10 square mile ranges require less patrol time, but more hunting effort when raising kittens. A female with 2 kittens needs 3 rabbits daily during nursing. That means spending 6 to 8 hours nightly hunting, rather than the 3 to 4 hours an adult male invests. The time budget shifts dramatically. Less rest, more hunting, less territorial patrolling, more focus on areas with highest rabbit density. Seasonal changes affect more than just activity timing. Summer brings hot days where temperatures exceed 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Lynx cope by reducing overall activity levels. They hunt during cooler twilight and night hours, minimizing movement during peak heat. Water becomes important. Territories need access to reliable water sources where the cat can drink and cool down. We see lynx visiting streams and ponds more frequently in summer months. Winter presents different challenges. While Mediterranean winters rarely bring snow to lynx territories, temperatures can drop near freezing on clear nights. The thick winter coat provides insulation, but thermoregulation still costs energy. Lynx must balance hunting effort against heat loss. Daytime hunting takes advantage of solar warming. The cat can hunt actively without excessive heat loss because ambient temperatures stay moderate during winter afternoons. Spring brings a particular intensity to lynx activity. This is breeding season. Males expand their patrol routes, moving beyond normal territory boundaries to check for receptive females. We see dramatic increases in movement distance. A male might cover 20 miles in a single night during peak breeding season, visiting multiple female territories. Vocalizations increase. Those low growling calls carry across the landscape, advertising male presence. Females in estrus also become more active, moving through their territories and vocalizing in response to male calls. The typical solitary existence breaks down briefly. Courtship involves days of interaction, the pair moving together, vocalizing, engaging in the rubbing and chasing behaviors that precede mating. Then the male departs, returning to his own territory, and the female resumes solitary existence. After birth in spring, females enter a period of intense focus. For the first month, they barely leave the immediate den area. Kittens need constant warming and nursing. The mother makes brief hunting trips, catching a rabbit quickly and returning to the den. As kittens grow and require less warming, hunting trips lengthen. By 3 months, when kittens can thermoregulate effectively, the female's activity pattern resembles normal adult patterns but with higher hunting intensity. Autumn marks dispersal season. for young lynx. Subadults that have spent their first year with mothers begin exploring beyond familiar territory. This exploration creates unusual movement patterns. Young lynx travel long distances, sometimes covering 60 miles in weeks as they search for vacant territories. Camera traps in autumn capture these transient individuals passing through occupied territories, tolerated briefly by residents because they're clearly moving through rather than settling. The daily rhythm we observe exists within this larger seasonal cycle. Each day follows familiar patterns, but those patterns shift with temperature, prey behavior, and reproductive state. The consistency within any given season masks the flexibility across seasons. Lynx adjust their schedules continually, responding to conditions while maintaining core patterns of twilight activity and midday rest. One aspect of lynx daily life often surprises observers: the amount of time spent doing nothing. A lynx might be active 8 or 9 hours daily, but much of that involves sitting and watching, grooming, resting between hunting bouts. Cats are efficient predators, partly because they conserve energy. They don't maintain constant movement like wolves or wild dogs. Instead, they alternate intense bursts of activity with long periods of rest. This efficiency becomes crucial during periods of prey scarcity. When rabbit populations crash from disease, lynx can't simply hunt harder and compensate. There aren't more rabbits to find. Instead, they must reduce activity levels, entering a kind of energy conservation mode. They hunt less frequently, rest more, and lose body condition gradually. The daily rhythm slows, activity peaks become less pronounced. The cat is waiting for conditions to improve. These rhythms, both daily and seasonal, create predictable patterns that researchers rely on for studying lynx populations. Camera trap placement considers activity patterns. Traps positioned along patrol routes near territorial boundaries capture more photos than random placements. Monitoring during peak activity hours yields better data than midday efforts. But here's something we're still learning about. How flexible are these patterns really? As lynx populations expand into new territories with different conditions, different prey densities, and different human activity levels, are we seeing pattern shifts? Do lynx near roads adjust timing to avoid traffic? Do populations in areas with higher human presence become more nocturnal? The questions remain open because the expansion is recent enough that we lack long-term comparison data. What happens to these daily and seasonal rhythms as climate changes? Mediterranean summers grow hotter. Will that push lynx toward even more nocturnal patterns, avoiding daytime activity entirely during summer? Will spring breeding season shift earlier as temperatures warm? These aren't abstract questions. They affect reproduction success, kitten survival, and ultimately population viability. The rhythms we observe represent millions of years of evolution, fine-tuning predator behavior to Mediterranean conditions. But those conditions are changing faster than evolutionary adaptation can track. Whether lynx can adjust behaviorally remains an open question, one we'll be answering through the coming decades as we continue documenting how these cats structure their days and seasons in a shifting world. Chapter 6. There's a simple equation that defines lynx survival. One adult male needs 1 rabbit per day. A female raising kittens needs 3. Everything else in their ecology flows from this basic arithmetic. Territory size, breeding success, population density, all of it traces back to rabbit availability. The lynx and the European rabbit have existed together on the Iberian Peninsula for roughly 1 million years. That's enough time for a relationship to become fundamental rather than simply convenient. European rabbits aren't just for lynx, they're the architectural foundation of Mediterranean ecosystems. Their grazing shapes vegetation patterns. Their burrows provide shelter for dozens of other species. They're what ecologists call a keystone species, meaning their presence or absence restructures the entire community around them. 29 native predators on the peninsula rely on rabbits as primary or secondary food sources. When rabbit numbers change, the effects cascade through the ecosystem in ways we're still documenting. The rabbits themselves once existed in extraordinary abundance. Historical accounts from the Iberian Peninsula describe landscapes where you couldn't walk 50 paces without encountering rabbit activity. Burrow systems, called warrens, covered hectares of suitable habitat. The Romans reportedly named the region Hispania, meaning land of rabbits. Whether that etymology is accurate or not, it captures how central rabbits were to the peninsula's identity. Then came the 1950s. A French physician named Paul Armand Delille wanted to control rabbits eating his garden vegetables. He obtained samples of myxoma virus, a disease harmless to South American rabbits but lethal to European species. He released infected rabbits on his property in 1952. The virus spread. Within 2 years, it had crossed the Pyrenees into Spain. Within a decade, it had killed an estimated 95% of the Iberian rabbit population. We need to pause here and consider what 95% mortality means for an ecosystem. Imagine 95% of all deer vanishing from North American forests, 95% of wildebeest disappearing from African savannas. The scale of ecological disruption becomes difficult to comprehend. Predator populations that had evolved over millennia to hunt rabbits suddenly faced starvation. Many adapted: red foxes, genets, eagles. They all shifted to alternative prey. Some populations crashed but eventually stabilized at lower densities. The Iberian lynx didn't adapt. They couldn't. Their entire physical design, from skull structure to hunting technique, optimizes for catching rabbit-sized prey in Mediterranean scrubland. Alternative prey exists: red-legged partridge, rodents, even young deer. But catching these alternatives requires different skills, different habitats, different energy calculations. A lynx can survive catching occasional partridge or rodents. It cannot maintain body condition or reproduce successfully on such a diet. Myxomatosis didn't just arrive and leave, it became endemic, cycling through rabbit populations seasonally. Summer and autumn bring peak infection rates. Young rabbits, just emerging from burrows to feed independently, prove most vulnerable. The disease causes swelling around eyes, nose, and genitals. Infected rabbits lose their wariness, becoming easy prey. Many simply die in their burrows. Mortality rates in naive populations still hover around 90%. In populations with some immunity, it drops to perhaps 30 to 50%, still devastating. Then in 1988, a second disease arrived: rabbit hemorrhagic disease, a calicivirus originating in China. This one kills even faster than myxomatosis. Infected rabbits develop internal bleeding and die within days. Initial outbreaks killed 50 to 75% of affected populations. Like myxomatosis, it became endemic. Unlike myxomatosis, it kills adult rabbits as readily as juveniles. The two diseases working together reduced rabbit populations across most of their range to fragments of historical levels. For lynx, the combined impact was catastrophic. Areas that once supported breeding populations no longer held sufficient rabbits. to sustain even individual adults. Female lynx need approximately 5 rabbits per hectare in their territory to breed successfully. Below that threshold, they might maintain territories but won't attempt reproduction. The energy demands of pregnancy and kitten rearing require reliable prey availability. When rabbit density drops too low, female reproductive systems simply shut down. They don't come into estrus, the population stops growing. Male lynx face different pressures under low rabbit density. They require larger territories to find sufficient prey. Larger territories mean more energy spent patrolling. The cost-benefit equation stops working. Adult males lose body condition. They become vulnerable to disease, injuries from territorial disputes, vehicle collisions during extended movements. Population dynamics shift. Fewer breeding age adults, lower reproduction rates among remaining females, higher mortality during dispersal when young lynx search for territories in landscapes where suitable habitat exists only in isolated patches. We've studied this relationship intensively in places like Doñana National Park. Long-term monitoring plots track rabbit abundance using standardized surveys. Researchers walk transects at dusk counting visible rabbits. The data builds pictures of population fluctuation across years and seasons. When rabbit numbers are good, lynx territories contract. When rabbits crash, territories expand, but lynx numbers decline. The correlation is tight. You can predict lynx breeding success based on rabbit surveys conducted months earlier. The diseases haven't disappeared, outbreaks continue. In 2013, a new variant of rabbit hemorrhagic disease swept through Spain and Portugal. This strain killed even very young rabbits and affected individuals previously vaccinated against classic forms. Rabbit populations crashed again. That year saw doubled roadkill numbers for lynx as cats expanded search ranges looking for prey. Kitten production plummeted. We watched the impact ripple through the recovering lynx population in real time. Conservation efforts recognized early that lynx recovery requires rabbit recovery. You can't save the predator without saving the prey. Multiple approaches emerged. Artificial warren construction provided rabbits with shelter in areas where natural burrow systems had disappeared. Disease monitoring programs tracked outbreaks and guided management responses. Some areas implemented vaccination campaigns, though effectiveness varied depending on local conditions. Rabbit restocking became a common tool. Conservation teams captured rabbits from high-density populations and moved them to depleted areas. The theory sounds straightforward. Add rabbits where they're scarce, and predator populations should respond. Practice proved more complicated. Moved rabbits face high mortality. They don't know the local terrain, burrow systems, or escape routes. Many get predated within weeks. Those that survive must establish warrens, breed, and build self-sustaining populations. Success rates vary dramatically depending on habitat quality, disease presence, and existing predator communities. Habitat management emerged as a longer-term strategy. Rabbits need specific vegetation structure, open areas for feeding, nearby dense cover for escape, suitable soil for burrowing. Land managers can create these conditions through controlled grazing, selective vegetation clearing, and soil management. The approach requires patience. Habitat improvements take years to show results. But when done well, they support stable rabbit populations that sustain lynx territories indefinitely. The fundamental challenge remains: lynx need rabbit densities that may never return to historical levels. The diseases are permanent features of rabbit ecology now. Every population carries disease history in its genetics. Some individuals show resistance, passing those traits to offspring, but complete immunity seems unlikely. Future rabbit populations will likely fluctuate around densities lower than pre-disease abundance. This creates a mismatch. Lynx evolved hunting rabbits at historical densities. Current densities in many areas hover at or below the threshold where lynx reproduction remains viable. We're managing both species toward a balance that may not be sustainable without continuous human intervention. Artificial warrens, disease monitoring, population supplementation. These interventions may need to continue indefinitely to maintain lynx populations. There's another consideration we're beginning to understand. Rabbit populations don't respond uniformly to management. Local conditions matter enormously. Soil type affects burrowing success. Vegetation determines cover availability. Presence of other predators changes survival rates. Two areas that look identical on paper show completely different rabbit responses to identical management actions. Learning which interventions work where requires site-specific experimentation and long-term monitoring. Climate change adds uncertainty to all these calculations. Mediterranean ecosystems face increasing drought stress. Vegetation communities shift. Rabbits respond to these shifts in ways we're still documenting. Some areas may become unsuitable for maintaining rabbit populations dense enough for lynx. Others might improve as conditions change. The spatial distribution of viable lynx habitat may shift northward and upward in elevation over coming decades. For now, we watch the relationship between lynx and rabbits play out across the peninsula. In areas where rabbit management succeeds, we see lynx populations responding. Territories shrink to sustainable sizes, breeding resumes, kittens survive to dispersal. In areas where rabbits remain scarce, lynx struggle. The cats are there, maintaining territories but not reproducing. These populations can't sustain themselves without immigration from more productive areas. The story of lynx recovery is fundamentally a story of rabbit recovery. Every success we celebrate in lynx numbers reflects prior success in rebuilding prey populations. Every setback traces to disease outbreaks or habitat losses that reduced rabbit density below critical thresholds. The two species remain linked in that ancient relationship, predator and prey moving through time together. We've intervened to prevent the predator's extinction, but that intervention must continue supporting the prey species that makes lynx existence possible. Chapter 7. Spring arrives quietly in the Mediterranean scrubland. March brings warmer days and longer evenings. Somewhere in a hollow tree trunk, protected from view, a female lynx gives birth. The process happens in darkness and solitude. No male attends, no other lynx witnesses the moment. The female handles everything alone, as her species has done for millennia. The kittens arrive tiny and helpless. Each one weighs perhaps 7 ounces, about the size of a large potato. Their eyes remain sealed shut. Ears fold against their heads. Soft, downy fur covers their bodies, but they cannot regulate their own temperature yet. Without their mother's warmth, they would die within hours. She curls around them in that hollow space, her body heat keeping them alive through those critical first days. For nearly 3 weeks, the world outside that den doesn't exist for these kittens. They sleep, nurse, and sleep again. The mother leaves only for brief hunting trips, never staying away long. Her body clock seems calibrated to their needs. Hunt, return, nurse, groom them clean, sleep beside them. The rhythm repeats day after day. Then something changes. Around day 20, the kittens have grown too large for the natal den. Their movements become more coordinated. They bump against each other and the den walls. The mother responds by moving them. She picks up each kitten by the scruff of its neck, carries it through the scrubland to a new location under a dense bush, and returns for the next one. This auxiliary den gives them more space. Over the coming weeks, she may move them 3 or 4 times, each location carefully chosen for cover and proximity to hunting areas. By 4 weeks, the kittens taste meat for the first time. The mother brings back pieces of rabbit, placing them near the kittens. They sniff cautiously, uncertain about this new food. Some ignore it initially, others mouth it experimentally. The transition from milk to solid food happens gradually over several weeks. At 10 weeks, they're finally weaned completely, though they continue growing and developing for many months. We should pause here and consider what these early weeks mean for survival. The mother must hunt enough not just for herself, but to produce milk for multiple kittens. She needs 3 rabbits daily during peak nursing. That's triple her normal requirement. Her hunting success directly determines whether the kittens thrive or fade. In years when rabbit populations run low, we see smaller litter sizes and lower kitten survival. The connection is that direct. By 2 months, the kittens start venturing out of the den. Picture them taking those first uncertain steps into the larger world. Everything is new. Sounds startle them. Movements draw their attention. They stay close to the mother, following her cautiously through familiar paths near the den. These outings start brief, perhaps just minutes, and gradually lengthen as the kittens gain confidence. Play begins around this age. Siblings wrestle, pouncing on each other, practicing movements they'll later use for hunting. Sometimes the play turns rough. Brothers and sisters have sharp teeth and claws even as kittens. Occasionally, play fights escalate into something more serious. The mother intervenes, separating them when intensity rises too high, but she can't always be present. When she's off hunting, the kittens are on their own. Some play sessions end with injuries. Not every kitten survives to adulthood. The months that follow bring steady learning. The mother doesn't teach through instruction, she demonstrates. The kittens watch her hunt, observing from cover as she stalks rabbits. They see her patient approach, the final pounce, the killing bite. At first, they're just observers. Around 4 or 5 months, they start attempting their own hunts, usually unsuccessfully. Young lynx lack the patience and precision that comes with experience. They rush the approach or pounce too early. Rabbits escape easily from these clumsy attempts, but the kittens learn from failure. Each unsuccessful hunt teaches something. Move more slowly. Wait longer, choose better angles. By 7 to 10 months, some kittens catch their first rabbit independently. That moment marks a transition toward self-sufficiency, though they remain with their mother for many more months. Territory inheritance plays a crucial role in young lynx futures. Female kittens sometimes inherit portions of their mother's territory when they reach maturity. The mother may shift her own range slightly, creating space for a daughter to establish herself nearby. Male kittens rarely inherit territory. They must disperse, traveling sometimes 60 miles to find vacant areas where they can settle. Dispersal represents the most dangerous period in a young lynx's life. These subadults, typically 18 to 20 months old, leave familiar territory and venture into unknown landscapes. They don't know where prey concentrates or where dangers lurk. Roads bisect their travel routes. Resident adults in occupied territories may attack them. Many dispersing lynx die during this period. Vehicle collisions account for significant mortality. Starvation claims others when they fail to find adequate prey. For those that survive dispersal and establish territories, sexual maturity arrives around 1 year of age. But possessing the biological capability to breed doesn't mean breeding happens. A lynx needs a territory before reproduction becomes possible. Some females secure territories by age 2 and breed successfully that first spring. Others wait years, unable to find suitable vacant space. One documented female didn't breed until age 5, only after her mother died and she inherited that territory. Some females never breed at all, spending their entire lives as transients or in marginal territories where rabbit density stays too low for reproduction. The litter size typically ranges from 2 to 4 kittens, though 3 is most common. Larger litters sound advantageous, but raising 4 kittens to independence requires extraordinary hunting success. The mother needs consistent access to abundant prey for many months. In practice, rarely do more than 2 kittens per litter survive to dispersal age. The others die from various causes: disease, insufficient food, sibling aggression, predation by other carnivores, accidents. Survival depends on many factors aligning correctly. Captive breeding programs reveal details about kitten development we couldn't observe in wild populations. Researchers documented that kittens' eyes open around 10 to 14 days after birth. Ear canals open a few days later. First teeth emerge at 3 to 4 weeks. Walking ability develops gradually, becoming coordinated by about 1 month. Each developmental milestone follows a predictable timeline, though individual variation exists. These programs also showed us something unexpected about sibling dynamics. Around 3 months, kittens enter a phase of intense play aggression. Their mock hunts and wrestling matches become rougher, more forceful. In captivity, where mothers remain nearby constantly, they intervene before serious injury occurs. In the wild, mothers spend hours away hunting. Without that supervision, some play fights turn lethal. Cubs found injured or dead in wild dens sometimes show wounds consistent with sibling conflict. It's a harsh reality of lynx development that not all aggression comes from outside threats. The bond between mother and kittens gradually weakens as the young mature. At 18 to 20 months, the relationship shifts. The mother becomes less tolerant of their presence. She may growl or swat at them when they approach. This isn't cruelty. It's preparation for independence. The young lynx need to disperse to find their own territories and establish their own lives. The mother's rejection pushes them toward that necessary separation. Weather affects kitten survival significantly. Spring rains in 2010 created problems for multiple litters. Dens flooded, temperatures dropped. Some kittens died from exposure. Mothers couldn't keep them warm enough in waterlogged dens. That year saw unusually low survival rates compared to drier springs. Climate matters when you're a helpless kitten, dependent entirely on your mother's ability to provide shelter and warmth. We track these reproductive details because they reveal population health. High kitten production indicates good prey availability and suitable habitat. Low kitten survival signals problems, whether rabbit scarcity, habitat degradation, or disease. The yearly count of surviving cubs helps predict future population trends. Good kitten years translate to more adults several years later. Poor kitten years mean fewer breeding adults down the line. The captive breeding centers celebrate each successful litter because every kitten represents hope for the species. In 2005, Saliega gave birth to the first captive-bred kittens. 3 healthy cubs that proved breeding programs could work. In recent years, breeding centers produce dozens of kittens annually. Some stay in captivity to maintain genetic diversity. Others enter the reintroduction program, releasing into restored wild habitats when they reach subadult age. But whether born in captivity or the wild, the developmental trajectory remains similar. Helpless newborns become coordinated kittens, then awkward juveniles learning to hunt, finally competent subadults ready for independence. The journey from that dark, hollow tree to established adult takes 2 years of growth, learning, and survival against considerable odds. Not every kitten makes that journey. Many disappear in their first months. Others die during dispersal. The ones that survive carry forward their mother's genetics and her territory's legacy, continuing the cycle that has sustained Iberian lynx across this peninsula for 1 million years. Chapter 8. A male lynx walks along a familiar path through his territory. He pauses at a large boulder beside the trail, sniffs carefully at its base, then turns and sprays urine against the rock surface. The scent carries information other lynx can read, like we might read a posted sign: male, adult, healthy, this territory occupied. The message lingers for days, sometimes weeks, depending on weather. Territory means everything to a lynx. It's not just land they happen to occupy. It's the resource base that allows survival. Enough rabbits to hunt, water sources for drinking, den sites for raising kittens, sheltered resting spots during hot afternoons. A lynx without territory cannot breed, often cannot survive. So they mark boundaries carefully, regularly, leaving chemical messages that say this space is claimed. The scent comes from several sources. Between their toes sit interdigital glands that deposit odor with every step. More concentrated scent glands exist on their face, particularly around the cheeks and chin. When a lynx rubs its face against a tree trunk or rock, it transfers oils containing chemical signatures unique to that individual. Urine carries hormonal information about sex, reproductive status, and recent diet. Feces, often left in prominent locations, adds visual components to the chemical message. Male territories typically span 8 to 12 square miles in good habitat. They overlap with several female territories, creating a mosaic where males know which females occupy adjacent spaces. Female territories average smaller, perhaps 4 to 6 square miles, but they defend these ranges more aggressively against other females. A male might tolerate another male passing through during non-breeding season. Females rarely tolerate such intrusions. The marking pattern follows a rhythm. Males patrol boundary areas more intensely than territory centers. They refresh marks along territorial edges every few days during breeding season, less frequently at other times. Prominent features like large rocks, trail junctions, or distinctive trees become regular marking posts. A lynx might return to the same boulder for years, layering new scent over old. Winter brings a quiet intensity to territorial maintenance. The breeding season runs from December through February. Males expand their patrol routes, sometimes traveling 15 or 20 miles in a single night. They visit female territories repeatedly, checking for signs that a female has entered estrus. Scent marks increase in frequency. Vocalizations, rare during most of the year, become common. The calls themselves sound unlike typical cat vocalizations. Deep, guttural growls that carry across valleys. not quite roars, not quite meows. Something in between that resonates through the forest at night. Males call to advertise their presence. Females respond with higher-pitched sounds when receptive. These vocal exchanges happen mostly in darkness, invisible to observers, but audible across considerable distances. When two males encounter each other at territorial boundaries, the interaction usually stays ritualized. They approach slowly. Ears rotate forward, then flatten slightly. Tail movements signal intent. One male might mark deliberately, while the other watches. Sometimes they simply stare at each other for minutes before one turns and walks away. Physical fights happen, but rarely. The risk of injury is too high for solitary predators. Better to establish dominance through display and scent rather than combat. Females show similar boundary respect among themselves. A young female searching for vacant territory learns quickly which areas other females claim. She might test boundaries, moving into marginal spaces between established territories. If a resident female detects the intrusion, she increases marking activity in that area. The message is clear without confrontation being necessary, but territorial systems aren't static. When a resident lynx dies, the territory becomes available. Neighboring animals might expand their ranges into the vacant space. Young dispersers moving through the landscape detect the absence of fresh scent marks and investigate. Sometimes multiple lynx converge on good vacant habitat, leading to competition for ownership. The best territories have high rabbit density, good cover, reliable water, and minimal road crossings. Lynx recognize quality habitat. Vacant prime territory rarely stays empty long. A young male might claim such a space within weeks of it opening. He immediately begins intensive marking, establishing his claim before competitors arrive. Females inherit territories more often than males. A daughter might remain in her mother's range as the older female gradually reduces her own territory size. The transition happens smoothly over months. The mother shifts her core area slightly. The daughter marks her own section more intensely. Eventually, they occupy adjacent but separate territories with minimal overlap. Think about the information density in these scent marks. A lynx can determine from a single sniff whether the mark came from male or female, adult or juvenile, resident or transient, whether the animal is healthy or sick, whether it passed through hours ago or days ago, whether it's in breeding condition. All this information packaged in chemical compounds our human noses cannot detect. The seasonal rhythm affects marking behavior significantly. During late winter breeding season, mark frequency peaks. Both males and females advertise their presence and reproductive status intensely. By spring, when females give birth and enter their intensive mothering period, marking drops dramatically. Females with kittens stay close to dens. They don't patrol territories like usual. The landscape around their den grows quiet, unmarked, as they focus energy on raising young. Summer brings a return to regular patterns. Kittens grow more independent. Mothers resume territorial patrols, refreshing old marks and checking boundaries. Males continue regular rounds, though with less intensity than breeding season. The chemical landscape of the forest stays current, updated continuously by resident animals. Autumn marks the beginning of dispersal season. Young lynx, now 18 to 20 months old, start exploring beyond their natal territories. They're cautious, tentative, testing boundaries. Resident adults detect these transients and increase marking in response. The message intensifies: territory occupied, go elsewhere. Some researchers believe lynx also use visual marking, though this remains less studied than chemical signals. Scratch marks on trees might serve dual purposes. They sharpen claws, yes, but they also create visible signs of presence. Other lynx seeing fresh scratches on bark know another individual passed recently. Body language communicates during the rare moments when lynx encounter each other directly. Ear position tells a story. Forward-facing ears signal curiosity or confidence. Flattened ears indicate aggression or fear. Tail position matters too. A relaxed tail hanging naturally suggests calm. A twitching or lashing tail shows agitation. When two lynx meet unexpectedly, these visual cues help them assess each other quickly and decide whether to approach, ignore, or retreat. Vocalizations beyond breeding calls remain minimal. A mother might chirp softly to her kittens. Kittens mew for attention when young. Adults sometimes hiss or spit when startled or threatened. But for the most part, lynx live silently. The forest holds their presence in scent more than sound. Camera traps occasionally capture marking behavior directly. We see a lynx approach a marking post, sniff thoroughly, then add its own scent. Sometimes they spend minutes investigating complex odor mixtures where multiple individuals have marked the same location over time. They're reading history, understanding who passed when, learning the social landscape of their territory. This chemical communication system works because lynx lead solitary lives. They don't form groups, they don't travel together except briefly during mating or when mothers accompany dependent offspring. So they need ways to communicate without direct contact. Scent marking creates an information network across the landscape, allowing individuals to coordinate territorial boundaries, breeding opportunities, and social status without ever meeting face to face. The system becomes disrupted when habitat fragments or territories shrink due to human development. Roads cut through formerly continuous forests, creating barriers that lynx must cross to maintain their territories. The chemical information network breaks down when animals cannot reach regular marking posts. Territorial boundaries become unclear, leading to more frequent direct confrontations and increased stress. Conservation efforts consider this communication need when designing habitat corridors. Simply creating a strip of forest isn't enough. The corridor needs marking posts, prominent features where lynx naturally leave scent. It needs to be wide enough that lynx feel secure using it regularly rather than just crossing once during desperate dispersal movements. We're learning that territorial behavior, marking patterns, all of it connects back to prey availability. In areas with abundant rabbits, territories shrink and boundaries stay stable. Lynx don't need large spaces when food concentrates in small areas. But when rabbits become scarce, territories expand. Marking patterns change. Animals travel farther, mark less frequently because they're covering more ground. The communication system adapts to ecological conditions, remaining flexible rather than rigidly fixed. That flexibility has limits, though. Below certain rabbit densities, the territorial system starts breaking down. Lynx abandon established territories to search for food. Boundary respect diminishes. The orderly pattern of adjacent territories dissolves into overlapping ranges of stressed animals competing for insufficient resources. Scent marking continues but loses its function because the rules it enforced no longer apply when starvation looms. The whispers of scent continue regardless, invisible messages floating through Mediterranean scrubland, carrying news between animals that rarely see each other but remain connected through chemistry and shared landscape. Chapter 9. The camera sat strapped to a cork oak tree for 3 weeks before anything interesting happened. Then one evening, just after sunset, motion triggered the sensor. The flash illuminated a lynx mid-stride, passing through frame in that fluid way cats move. The image captured something researchers had suspected but never documented. This particular female used this exact trail every other night, following a pattern as regular as clockwork. Before camera traps, we knew very little about lynx' daily lives. The animals are too secretive, too nocturnal, too aware of human presence. Traditional observation methods failed. You could spend months in lynx habitat without seeing one. Radio collars told us where animals went, but not what they did there. The cats remained mysterious despite decades of study. Then small, weatherproof cameras changed everything. Set them along trails, leave them for weeks, and they silently document whoever passes. No human scent to alarm the lynx, no observer presence to alter behavior, just a patient mechanical eye recording the forest's hidden rhythms. The technology arrived just as lynx conservation became urgent. In the early 2000s, with populations near extinction, understanding their behavior mattered enormously. Where did they hunt? Which habitats did they prefer? How often did they move through territories? Camera traps started answering these questions. One early discovery surprised everyone. Researchers expected lynx to avoid areas with human activity. Instead, cameras showed them regularly using dirt roads and hiking trails for travel. The paths made movement easier than pushing through dense scrubland. As long as actual human traffic stayed minimal, lynx adapted these human corridors into their territorial networks. The cameras captured personalities too. Individual lynx showed distinct behavioral quirks. One male in Doñana approached every camera he encountered, sniffing the equipment thoroughly before continuing. Another female avoided cameras entirely, somehow sensing their presence and detouring around them. A third lynx seemed completely indifferent, walking past cameras without acknowledgement, focused on whatever business occupied its attention. Spot patterns allowed identifying individuals from photos. Each lynx carries unique markings like a fingerprint. Researchers built databases matching photos to known animals. Over time, they could track individuals across years, seeing how particular lynx used space, where they spent time, how their movements changed seasonally. One camera captured a moment that illustrated lynx hunting patience perfectly. A lynx sat motionless beside a rabbit warren for 47 minutes across multiple sequential photos, just sitting, waiting. Then, in the final image of the sequence, the lynx lunged forward, the blur of motion suggesting a successful strike, though the outcome remained unclear. Another camera caught something researchers had only theorized about: a female moving kittens between dens. She appeared carrying a small cub by the scruff, moving purposefully down a trail. 20 minutes later, she returned along the same path without the kitten. Then again, with another cub. The sequence documented maternal behavior that happens too quickly and privately for direct human observation. The cameras work tirelessly. Rain, heat, cold nights, they keep recording. Some researchers joke that cameras are their best field assistants, never complaining, never getting tired, always ready when something interesting happens. The devices democratized wildlife research in a way. You don't need decades of tracking experience or intimate knowledge of animal behavior. Set cameras properly and they gather data while you sleep. But camera traps have limitations. They capture moments, not context. A photo shows a lynx on a trail, but not why it chose that particular moment to travel. The animal might be hunting, patrolling territory, fleeing disturbance, or simply taking the easiest path between resting spots. Interpretation requires experience and additional data from other sources. Attractant lures improved capture rates. Researchers discovered that certain scents drew lynx to investigate, not food scents, but curiosity triggers. A bit of commercial lure design for foxes worked surprisingly well. Lynx would approach, sniff the area, often mark nearby, and the cameras captured clear facial shots perfect for individual identification. The year 2025 brought an unexpected gift to camera trap researchers. Someone in Hainan province captured images of a white lynx. The photos circulated quickly through conservation networks. A leucistic individual, its coat cream-colored instead of the typical tawny with dark spots. The discovery happened because of camera traps. This lynx would never have been documented through traditional observation methods. Too rare, too elusive, too similar in behavior to normal colored lynx, except for that striking appearance. That white lynx became a symbol of sorts. It proved the population had rebounded enough for rare genetic variations to appear. In a population of 60 individuals, such mutations get lost. In a population exceeding 2,000, diversity expresses itself. The cameras documented this biological recovery in a single striking image. Seasonal patterns emerged from years of accumulated photos. Spring showed females focused tightly around den areas. Summer brought wider-ranging movements as kittens grew mobile. Autumn captured young lynx exploring beyond natal territories, those tentative first steps toward independence. Winter revealed the breeding season's intensity, males traveling extensively, females becoming more visible as they moved through territories. The cameras also documented threats. Roadkill happened at predictable locations, places where lynx territories intersected major roads. Photos showed the same individuals crossing repeatedly at the same spots. This information guided placement of wildlife underpasses and virtual fencing systems. Conservation teams could target interventions precisely where camera data showed lynx crossing patterns. Some cameras captured interactions between lynx and other wildlife. A lynx and red fox faced off over a kill, the lynx eventually driving the smaller predator away. Eagles and lynx competed for the same rabbits, though rarely simultaneously. Genet cats, mongoose, wildcats all appeared in photos from the same locations lynx frequented, showing the rich carnivore community sharing these Mediterranean forests. The photo databases grew massive. Tens of thousands of images from hundreds of camera locations across lynx range. Analyzing them required time and patience. Researchers spent hours reviewing photos, noting dates, times, locations, individual identities, behaviors. Software helped, automatically filtering images containing animals from empty shots, triggered by swaying branches. But human eyes still needed to examine each lynx photo and record observations. One research team followed a particular female through 5 years of camera trap photos. They watched her establish a territory, breed successfully 3 times, raise kittens to independence, and eventually disappear from the cameras, presumably dying of old age somewhere beyond the monitored areas. Her life story told through silent snapshots of visual biography of one lynx's journey. the technology keeps improving. Newer cameras capture video instead of still photos, providing behavioral context impossible from single images. Night vision improves constantly, revealing detail even in complete darkness. Some cameras now send photos wirelessly, eliminating the need for monthly collection trips that risk disturbing the monitored areas. But the basic concept remains simple. Put a camera where lynx travel, let it watch, check the results later. The patience belongs to the technology now, rather than the researcher. The camera waits while life passes in front of its lens, documenting the hidden hours when lynx emerge from daylight resting spots and begin their evening routines. These images show us a world we cannot otherwise access. The forest at 2 in the morning. The trail junction where 3 territories meet. The moment a mother introduces her kittens to solid food, the old male on his final patrol before age claims him. All of it captured in silent pixels, building a library of lynx lives that helps us understand what these animals need to survive. And that understanding matters because conservation requires knowledge. You cannot protect what you don't understand. Camera traps gave us understanding. They showed us lynx as they actually are, rather than as we imagined them to be. Patient hunters, devoted mothers, territorial strategists, survivors navigating a landscape increasingly shaped by human presence. The revolution continues quietly. New cameras deploy in expanding territories as lynx populations spread into formerly vacant ranges. Each device adds to the collective observation network, documenting the ongoing recovery. Somewhere tonight, a camera will trigger as a lynx passes, adding one more image to the growing record of a species returning from the edge of extinction. Chapter 10. The sun drops behind the hills. Shadows stretch across the scrubland, merging into a softer darkness. Somewhere in the thicket, a lynx opens its eyes. The day has been long and warm. Now comes the time for movement. We live in daylight. Our world operates under the sun. But for lynx, the real day begins as ours ends. They inhabit those in between hours when light fades, but darkness hasn't fully arrived. Dawn and dusk become their prime time, when the world shifts between states and they move most actively through their territories. Night vision in cats works differently than ours. Their eyes gather light more efficiently. A structure called the tapetum lucidum sits behind the retina, reflecting light back through the eye a second time. This gives photoreceptors another chance to catch photons they missed initially. In dim conditions, this makes an enormous difference. What looks dark to us appears clearly visible to them. Those amber eyes we find so striking serve a purpose beyond beauty. The large size captures more light. The vertical pupils can dilate wide in darkness or contract to slits in bright sun, controlling light intake precisely. A lynx sees well across a broader range of conditions than we manage. They read the landscape in twilight as easily as we navigate noon sunshine. But night travel brings its own character. The forest changes when darkness arrives. Sounds become more important than sights. A rustle in dry leaves, the soft thump of a rabbit moving between feeding spots, wind through branches creating patterns of noise. A lynx learns to filter, focusing on sounds that matter while ignoring background static. Temperature shifts too. Mediterranean nights cool down from daytime heat. The change in air temperature affects scent. Odors travel differently, settle into low spots, concentrate along certain paths. A lynx moving through this scent landscape reads information we cannot perceive. Who passed this way earlier? What prey might be nearby? Whether danger lurks ahead? The darkness provides cover for hunting. Rabbits emerge from burrows at dusk to feed on grasses and vegetation. They're cautious, always alert, but darkness gives predators an advantage. A lynx can approach closer under cover of twilight than it ever could in full daylight. Those final meters before the pounce, the distance that determines success or failure, shrinks when vision becomes less reliable for prey. Walking through lynx habitat at night feels different than daytime visits. The landscape you thought you knew transforms. Familiar trails look strange in moonlight. Sounds you never noticed during day become obvious. The place reveals layers invisible under sun. This is the world lynx experience constantly, this nighttime realm where shadows hold substance and darkness offers opportunity. They don't rush through these hours. A lynx might spend 30 minutes just sitting, watching a promising area where rabbits often feed. Patience costs nothing in darkness. Time stretches differently when you're nocturnal. The urgency that drives daytime creatures fades. What matters is being in the right place when opportunity presents itself. Moonlight changes their behavior. Bright, full moons make some lynx more cautious. The extra light helps them see better, but also makes them more visible. On cloudy nights with minimal moon, darkness deepens, and they adjust hunting strategies accordingly. The cycles continue, moon waxing and waning, lynx adapting their approach to match conditions. Winter nights bring a different quality. Colder temperatures mean rabbits venture out during warmer daylight hours more often, so lynx shift schedules, becoming more active in afternoon light than they would during summer. The flexibility exists because they're following prey patterns rather than fixed internal schedules. They hunt when hunting works best, whenever that happens to be. Some territories have spots where lynx regularly rest during nighttime hunting breaks. A particular rocky outcrop with a good view, a dense bush offering shelter if weather turns bad. These locations appear in camera trap photos repeatedly, the same lynx using the same resting spot night after night. Creatures of habit even in their nocturnal wanderings. The hours between midnight and dawn hold a particular quiet. Even nocturnal animals slow down during this deep night period. A lynx might rest for several hours, digesting an earlier kill, conserving energy before the pre-dawn activity surge. Nothing dramatic happens, just a cat lying in darkness, waiting for dawn to approach and bring renewed hunting opportunities. That pre-dawn period, the hour before sunrise, often shows peak activity. Rabbits make final feeding forays before retreating to burrows for the day. Lynx know this pattern. They position themselves in prime hunting spots, ready for these last chances before daylight forces everyone to rest. Then dawn arrives gradually. The sky lightens at the eastern horizon. Details emerge from darkness. Birds begin calling. The transition from night to day happens slowly at first, then suddenly the sun breaks the horizon and full daylight floods the landscape. Most lynx are already settling into daytime resting spots by then, their active period complete. But not always. Sometimes a lynx continues moving after sunrise, perhaps finishing an interrupted hunt or checking a territorial boundary that needs attention. They're not strictly nocturnal in the way some animals are. Flexibility serves them better than rigid adherence to schedules. They prefer twilight and darkness, but can function in daylight when circumstances require. The night sounds of lynx habitat create a soundscape most people never hear. Owls calling, small rodents rustling through leaf litter, the distant bark of a fox, wind patterns shifting as temperatures change. Within this audio environment, a lynx moves nearly silently. Those padded paws, that careful foot placement, the deliberate slow approach all combine to make them ghosts in their own territory. Young lynx learning to hunt at night make mistakes their elders avoid. They step on dry branches that crack loudly. They move too quickly, creating rushing sounds that alert prey. They haven't yet learned which routes through territory stay quiet and which paths betray movement. Experience teaches these lessons over months of practice. A mother with kittens does most of her hunting during peak dark hours when kittens sleep in the den. She cannot afford long, patient stalks because she needs to return regularly for nursing and warmth provision, so her nighttime movements become more efficient, focused on high-probability hunting areas rather than extensive territorial patrols. Males during breeding season change their nighttime patterns completely. Instead of focusing on hunting, they travel extensively, visiting multiple female territories, vocalizing, marking intensively. These winter nights see males covering twice their normal range, moving almost constantly between dusk and dawn. The urgency of breeding season overrides normal cautious behavior. Rain changes everything about night hunting. Wet conditions dampen sounds, make scents harder to follow, create discomfort that even thick fur cannot fully prevent. Lynx become less active during heavy rain, sheltering under dense vegetation or in rocky overhangs, waiting for conditions to improve. Light rain they tolerate. Downpours drive them to cover. The moon cycles through phases month after month, and lynx move through darkness under its changing light. Full moons illuminate landscapes almost like day. New moons bring nearly complete darkness. Each condition requires subtle adjustments in hunting approach, in movement speed, in distance traveled. The cats adapt unconsciously, their behavior shaped by millions of years of nocturnal evolution. Human lights now affect their nighttime world. Roads with streetlights create barriers some lynx avoid. Buildings with exterior lighting disrupt natural darkness patterns. Camera trap flashes briefly illuminate their world with artificial brightness. They adapt to these intrusions, learning which lights stay constant and which are temporary, adjusting routes to minimize exposure. But most of their territory remains properly dark, especially in protected areas away from development. There, ancient patterns continue undisturbed. Lynx emerge as stars appear overhead. They hunt through deepest night. They rest briefly in darkness. They greet dawn from the same places their ancestors used for generations. The nocturnal life means most people never see lynx behavior firsthand. We rely on technology, on camera traps and radio telemetry to understand their nighttime activities. We piece together their lives from indirect evidence rather than direct observation. The mystery persists because darkness itself provides them privacy we cannot easily penetrate, and maybe that's appropriate. Some things should remain hidden. Some animals should keep their secrets. The lynx, moving through Mediterranean night, hunting rabbits under starlight, marking territory in darkness, living the life evolution designed for them. This exists whether we watch or not. The camera traps document moments, but the full experience of being nocturnal, of inhabiting darkness as natural habitat, belongs to them alone. The night continues its rhythm. Somewhere a lynx walks a familiar trail. The same trail its mother walked. The same trail generations of lynx have traveled. The darkness holds them gently, offering cover and opportunity, and the freedom to be what they are, nighttime hunters in an ancient landscape. Tomorrow night, the pattern repeats, and the next night, and the next. As long as Mediterranean scrubland remains and rabbits emerge at dusk, lynx will continue their nocturnal wanderings, writing their stories in darkness we can only partially read. The Mediterranean evening settles gently over the scrubland. Somewhere in the distance, a lynx stirs from its daytime rest. Another day ends. Another night begins. The rhythm continues as it has for 1,000,000 years. We've traveled through the lynx's world together, watched them hunt in twilight, seen mothers raise their young in hidden dens, followed their nocturnal wanderings through territories they know as intimately as we know our own homes. These cats have shared their story with us, though they remain unaware of our attention. The story could have ended differently. In 2002, with only 62 individuals remaining, extinction seemed inevitable. The path forward appeared closed, but something remarkable happened instead. People chose to act. Not just a few individuals, but entire communities, governments, scientists, landowners. They decided this cat deserved a future. 20 years later, over 2,000 lynx move through the peninsula. They've returned to places their ancestors roamed centuries ago. New kittens are born each spring in territories that sat empty for decades. The impossible became possible because enough people cared enough to make it happen, but the lynx don't know about conservation programs or captive breeding. They don't understand how close they came to disappearing forever. They simply live, hunt rabbits, raise kittens, mark territories, follow the patterns their species has always followed. The complexity of their rescue remains invisible to them. They just exist, which is exactly as it should be. The Mediterranean landscape holds them now as it always has. Cork oak forests, dense scrubland, open grassland patches where rabbits feed, rocky outcrops offering shelter. This mosaic of habitat supports not just lynx, but entire ecosystems. The rabbits, the foxes, the eagles, the vegetation patterns shaped by grazing, everything connected, each piece supporting the others. Night deepens across the scrubland, stars emerge overhead. The lynx begins its evening patrol, following familiar trails, checking familiar spots. Its paws move silently over ground countless lynx have traveled before. The territory holds memory in its landscape, stories written in scent marks and worn paths and preferred resting places. Tomorrow morning, as dawn light returns, this lynx will find shelter for another day of rest. The cycle will turn again. Days will become weeks, weeks will become seasons, and the patterns will continue. Kittens will grow into adults. New territories will be claimed. The population will shift and adjust as it always has, responding to prey abundance and habitat quality and all the factors that shape wild lives. We cannot predict the future. Climate changes, habitats shift, new challenges will emerge, but the lynx have shown us something important about resilience, about adaptation, about the possibility of recovery even from the very edge of extinction. They've given us hope that other species facing similar threats might also be saved if we choose to act. For now, tonight, this moment, the lynx walks through darkness in its ancient territory. It doesn't think about the past or worry about the future. It exists fully in the present, focused on the sounds and scents surrounding it, alert for opportunity, at home in its world. Tomorrow morning, as dawn light returns, this lynx will find shelter for another day of rest. The cycle will turn again. Days will become weeks, weeks will become seasons, and the patterns will continue. Kittens will grow into adults. New territories will be claimed. The population will shift and adjust as it always has, responding to prey abundance and habitat quality, and all the factors that shape wild lives. We cannot predict the future. Climate changes, habitats shift, new challenges will emerge. But the lynx have shown us something important about resilience, about adaptation, about the possibility of recovery, even from the very edge of extinction. They've given us hope that other species facing similar threats might also be saved if we choose to act. For now, tonight, this moment, the lynx walks through darkness in its ancient territory. It doesn't think about the past or worry about the future. It exists fully in the present, focused on the sounds and scents surrounding it, alert for opportunity, at home in its world. And perhaps that's the lesson here. Not the complex science of conservation or the intricate details of lynx biology, but simply this: wild creatures deserve to exist, to live their lives in the places evolution shaped them for, to continue the patterns that connect them to deep time, to the long chain of ancestors stretching back through millennia. The Mediterranean night embraces the lynx as it has always done. The scrubland holds its secrets. The rabbits move cautiously through darkness. The ancient rhythms continue, patient and eternal, and quietly beautiful. We can rest now, knowing the lynx rests too, somewhere in dense cover, amber eyes closing as dawn approaches, safe, surviving, part of a population that refused to disappear. The story continues beyond this moment, beyond these words, into a future we can only hope remains as gentle with them as they deserve. The lynx dreams, perhaps, of rabbits and running, of kittens and territory, of everything that makes a life complete. And in the morning, when sun returns to warm the Mediterranean earth, the lynx will sleep deeply in its hidden place, at peace in a world that finally made space for it to exist. The story doesn't end. It simply continues, night after night, season after season, as long as scrubland remains and rabbits run and lynx follow the ancient patterns written in their genes. Rest now. The lynx is resting too.